My name is Madeline Cooper. I'm 31, and I thought I had financial boundaries all figured out. As a senior financial analyst living in downtown Chicago, I knew how to manage debt, build credit, and spot a bad investment from a mile away. I was the responsible one in my family, the emergency contact, the late night problem solver, the one everyone called when things went wrong. So when my parents asked to borrow my gold credit card for a quick $5,000 investment opportunity, I barely hesitated. After all, this wasn't the first time I'd helped. I covered their mortgage when Dad got laid off, paid Ethan's tuition, twice, co-signed Chloe's first apartment lease. Being the reliable daughter had become muscle memory, but this time, something felt off. Their voices were just a little too cheerful, the guilt trip a little too obvious. And when I finally mailed that card out, ignoring the knot in my stomach, I had no idea it'd be the start of a 2-week silence, followed by designer shopping sprees, a brand new Ducati, and a bank balance that dropped faster than my trust. By the time I opened my credit card app and saw just $1.16 left from a $50,000 limit, I realized this wasn't just another family misunderstanding. This was betrayal, wrapped in smiles and Sunday dinners. Before I dive into how I flipped this entire situation and rewrote the financial rules of my family, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you've ever been the reliable one in your family, hit that like and subscribe button. Because trust me, this story, you're going to want to stay for the ending. It was just a Tuesday night, and one phone call turned my financial world upside down. I had just kicked off my heels by the door, the smell of garlic and basil filling my tiny downtown apartment as I stirred pasta sauce on the stove. The hum of the city outside felt distant, almost soothing after a 12-hour workday at the firm. Tuesdays were my reset days. Grocery shopping, meal prep, maybe a glass of wine if I felt indulgent. The ringtone cut through the air, sharp and unexpected. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and glanced at the screen. Mom. A strange flutter stirred in my stomach. Calls from my mother on weeknights usually meant one of three things: family gossip, unsolicited relationship advice, or money. I picked up. Hey, Mom, everything okay? Her voice came with that sugary lilt she reserved for moments when she wanted something. Sweetheart, we need a little help. My stomach sank further. I shifted the phone to my other ear, lowering the stove burner. What's going on? It's just a small thing, she said quickly. Your father and I found this amazing investment opportunity, but we hit a little snag with our credit limit. Before I could respond, Dad's voice chimed in from the other line. It's time-sensitive, kiddo. Great returns, too. You know us. Always thinking ahead. I sat on the bar stool, staring at the half-chopped onions on the cutting board. How much? 5,000, Mom said, like she was asking me to borrow a sweater. $5,000. I took a slow breath. This wasn't the first time they'd asked for help. After Dad's layoff a few years back, I'd helped cover their mortgage for 3 months. Paid off part of Ethan's tuition when he switched majors for the third time. Loaned Chloe money for her first apartment deposit. But something about this felt off. The rushed tone. The double teaming. Why not split it between your cards? I asked, already slipping into financial analyst mode. The website only takes one payment method, Mom replied too quickly. We just need to borrow your gold card for a couple of days. We'll mail it back as soon as the transaction clears. Or you could come over for dinner this weekend and pick it up. Guilt trip level. Expert. I rubbed my temple. Just one purchase, right? Absolutely, Mom chirped. We really appreciate this, Madeline, Dad added. We raised a good one, always looking out for family. I hesitated a beat longer, but the familiar warmth of being needed, of being the reliable one, overrode the unease twisting in my gut. Okay, I finally said. The relief in their voices was immediate. After we hung up, I sat staring at my wallet on the counter. My gold card glinted under the kitchen light, the heavy metal weight of it a symbol of years of discipline and hard work. No missed payments, no carried balances. just steady, responsible management. I slipped it into an envelope, double-checked the address, and sealed it with a sigh. The next morning, I dropped it in the mailbox on my way to work, tucking the unease deep behind to-do lists and quarterly reports. Just one transaction, right? Absolutely. Little did I know, that would be the last time I'd see that card. For weeks. 3 days passed, then 5, then 2 weeks. My patience wore thinner than my card balance. By day 11, I started telling myself it was just the mail. Postal delays weren't uncommon, right? By day 13, I convinced myself they'd simply forgotten. Again. But by day 14, when my lunch break turned into me refreshing my banking app between bites of salad, I knew I couldn't keep ignoring the feeling clawing at the back of my mind. The last time my parents delayed repaying me, it had never stretched past a week. Not once. That Thursday afternoon, I sat in my office at the firm's 22nd floor, staring at spreadsheets that refused to hold my focus. The Chicago skyline, usually a source of quiet pride, blurred behind the glass. I pulled out my phone and hit dial. Mom answered on the third ring, her tone bright but rushed. "Hi, honey. Everything okay?" "Just checking in," I said casually, forcing lightness into my voice. "Did Dad remember to mail my card back?" A pause. Too long. "Oh, right. Your father? He's been meaning to. Things just got busy this week." "Busy? Retired Dad?" I tapped my pen against my notepad, masking the irritation rising in my throat. "It's been 2 weeks, Mom." "I know, sweetheart. We're so sorry. We'll get it to you soon." Promise I wasn't satisfied, but pushing her wouldn't help over the phone. I hung up with a tight smile in my voice and went back to pretending I cared about column variances. Later that evening, as I scrolled through Instagram on the train ride home, Chloe's story popped up. Video clips of her unboxing designer shopping bags I recognized from boutiques in the upscale part of town. She panned her camera over glossy shoeboxes, jewelry cases, and what looked suspiciously like a new Prada tote. My stomach twisted. I clicked over to Facebook, half out of habit, half out of growing dread. Ethan's latest post sat at the top of my feed. A bright red Ducati. Brand new. Shiny enough to blind. Caption: "Finally making moves. Dream bike? Jure worth it." Worth it? With what money? My throat dried. Ethan had been whining about overdue credit card bills just a month ago. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex's parking garage, I couldn't shake the buzz in my head. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That night, sleep eluded me. By Friday afternoon, I decided enough was enough. I left the office early, drove out to the suburbs, and parked in front of my parents' house. The first thing I noticed was the porch furniture. New, sleek, with teal cushions that hadn't been there last month. The doorbell was one of those fancy video models blinking with a tiny blue light. Inside, I stepped onto a plush area rug I didn't recognize. The living room had a brand new leather sectional, and a massive flat screen dominated the entertainment center. I barely registered Mom's warm greeting from the kitchen. Instead, I pulled out my phone, thumb trembling as I opened my banking app. The familiar gold credit card account loaded after a beat. My balance stared back at me. $1.16. That was all that remained from my $50,000 credit limit. The room tilted. My heartbeat roared in my ears like a freight train. I gripped the edge of the new leather sofa, struggling for air. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. Wearing my family's smiles. When I walked into my parents' living room, I didn't come for dessert. I came for answers. The scent of garlic bread and marinara sauce hung in the air, but it didn't soften the knot in my stomach. I pushed the front door open without knocking, letting it slam behind me. Mom's head popped out from the kitchen. "Sweetheart, you made it. I was just putting dessert in the oven." I didn't smile. "Where's my card?" Her smile faltered for half a second before bouncing back like a poorly inflated balloon. "Oh, honey, let's not start the evening like this. Come sit. Eat something." Dad appeared at the top of the basement stairs, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Look who's finally taking a night off from work. Relax, kiddo." I crossed the room, planting myself firmly in the center of the living room, surrounded by their brand new furniture and freshly painted walls. I'm not here to relax. I'm here for my card. Chloe peeked her head around the corner from the dining room, eyebrows raised. Ethan, already lounging on the new sectional, gave me a lazy grin. Geez, Mads. Dramatic much? The words felt like gasoline. I squared my shoulders. Show me the card. Now. For the first time all evening, silence settled like a thick blanket over the room. Dad cleared his throat, exchanging a quick look with Mom. All right. No need to get all worked up. He ambled over to the side table drawer, the one next to the stairs, rummaged for a second, and pulled something out. My stomach twisted as he approached, holding the card between two fingers like a peace offering. I snatched it from his hand without a word. Immediately, something felt off. The weight was wrong. Too light. Too flimsy. The gold color looked too yellow, almost fake. I flipped it over. No magnetic strip. No chip. My name was there, but the embossing looked shallow, like it had been stamped by a budget printing machine. Recognition hit me like a slap. A slow, incredulous laugh bubbled up from my chest. It started small, shaky, then grew. Louder, sharper, until it echoed off the living room walls. My family stared at me, wide-eyed. Chloe's mouth parted in confusion. Ethan shifted uncomfortably on the couch. Mom stood frozen near the kitchen entrance. Dad's smile started to slip. I held the card up, shaking it slightly between my fingers. You didn't spend my money because you never had my card. This is plastic, and you are unbelievable. I let the words hang in the air, thick with disbelief and dark amusement. But if they thought the story ended there, they clearly didn't know me at all. Turns out, the card wasn't the only thing they'd kept hidden. I sat back on the leather sectional, still holding the fake gold card between my fingers like some kind of bad joke souvenir. The air in the room had shifted. No one laughed now. If this is a fake card, I said slowly, looking at each of them in turn, then where did the money come from? Silence. Ethan, always the first to crack, blinked at me. What do you mean? Wasn't it your card? Chloe's brow furrowed. Wait, Dad, didn't you say Madeline was letting you use her card for the bike? Dad scratched the back of his neck, suddenly very interested in the ceiling. Well, I turned to Chloe. And you? The shopping spree? Her eyes darted toward Mom, then back to me. They said it was all from your card, like a thank you for all the years you helped. I opened my mouth to respond, but Chloe beat me to it. It's from Grandma's house sale, right? She blurted. The room froze. Mom's spoon, which she'd been nervously stirring in an empty coffee mug, clattered onto the kitchen counter. Dad visibly paled. I blinked. Excuse me? Chloe clapped a hand over her mouth, realizing what she'd done. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, glancing between Mom and Dad like a spectator waiting for the referee's call. Frank cleared his throat. Well, since we're here, I guess it's time we tell you. Tell me what? My voice dropped, steady and low. Mom sank onto the armrest nearest her, folding her hands in her lap like a schoolgirl caught cheating. Your grandmother's house in Florida. It finally sold. After all the probate mess. I stared at them. That was 3 years ago. It closed 2 months ago. Dad added, voice tight. The proceeds came in. Over $300,000. I stood up, my heart thudding in my ears. You've been sitting on a 6-figure inheritance, and instead of telling me, you let me believe you maxed out my card? We were going to surprise everyone. Mom rushed. At the family vacation. 10 days in Hawaii. All expenses paid. Dad nodded like this explained everything. We wanted it to be big. Fun.A turning point for the family. My laugh this time had no humor left. So instead, you let me spiral for 2 weeks thinking you'd committed fraud. We didn't mean for it to happen like that, Mom said quickly. We grabbed the wrong card and then things snowballed. You could have stopped this at any time. I shook my head. Any time Frank held up his hands. We didn't want to ruin the surprise. Oh, trust me, I said, my voice like ice. The surprise is well and truly ruined. For a long beat, no one spoke. The weight of their choices hung in the air like humidity before a summer storm. I looked around at the new furniture, the tech gadgets, Chloe's designer bags, Ethan's Ducati keys sitting carelessly on the coffee table. Then I straightened my shoulders, pulling every ounce of composure I had left. From now on, I said, meeting each of their eyes, I run my own narrative, not yours. They thought this was the resolution. They had no idea what was coming next. They wanted a surprise? I had one of my own. By Monday morning, I had canceled every secondary user linked to my accounts. Every auto payment they'd once slipped past me. Every forgotten login where my name lingered as a financial safety net. I wiped it clean. Passwords? Changed. Security questions? Reset. The emergency fund they thought they could dip into with a phone call? Relocated to a new high-yield savings account they didn't even know existed. 2 years ago, when their mortgage payments had fallen behind, I'd written a $15,000 check without hesitation. Back then, I'd called it love. Now, I called it a mistake. By Thursday night, after triple-checking every account, I opened a blank email draft and typed the subject line in bold. New financial boundaries, effective immediately. The body came easily, like muscle memory from every policy document I'd written at work. Dear family, effective immediately, the following financial boundaries are in place. No one is permitted to borrow my credit card. No oral agreements or informal borrowing will be honored. Any request for financial support must be submitted in writing, with full details, and will require my written approval before funds are disbursed. This policy is non-negotiable. Regards, Madeline Cooper. I hovered over the send button for 1 second. Just one, then hit it. By noon Friday, the group chat lit up. Chloe, I'm so sorry, sis. Ethan, are you mad at me? I ignored both. Around 3 that afternoon, Mom called. Twice. I let both go to voicemail. By 5, Dad tried too, starting with his patented half-joking, half-sheepish tone. This time, I didn't answer. That night, I drafted my second email. Subject line, family meeting, Sunday, 4 p.m., my place. Just one sentence in the body. Attendance is expected. Please be on time. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. They used to summon me. This time, they'd come on my terms. For the first time ever. They waited for me to speak first. The living room of my apartment felt smaller than usual with all 4 of them seated there. Mom, Dad, Ethan, Chloe. They sat like guests waiting for a verdict, not family arriving for casual coffee. No one touched the drinks I'd set out. No one even looked at their phones. I stood near the bookshelf, my back straight, a manila folder in my hands. My heart beat steady. Not with nerves, but with something sharper. Finality. I took a slow breath and walked over to the coffee table, setting the folder down and distributing its contents. 1 stapled document per person. Ethan flipped through his first, curiosity overpowering his usual apathy. Chloe took hers with trembling fingers, eyes already glassy. Mom and Dad stared at theirs like they were legal summons. In a way, they were. I call it the financial trust agreement, I said, my voice calm, measured. You'll find 3 sections. No one interrupted. Section 1, no borrowing, of money, cards, or accounts. If you need financial help, submit it in writing. I'll review it. In my time. On my terms. Ethan shifted but said nothing. Section 2, no accessing my financial information. That means no more questions about my salary, my credit limits, or my savings. If I want to share, I will. Otherwise, it's private. Mom's lips tightened, but she stayed silent. Section 3. If this agreement is violated, I end all financial support. Indefinitely. A heavy pause settled over the room. I let it sit there, thick and uncomfortable. Then Ethan reached for the pen I'd left by his seat. Without a word, he signed. Chloe followed. Her hands shook as she scribbled her name at the bottom, a tear slipping down her cheek as she whispered, "I'm sorry." I nodded once, but didn't say more. Dad picked up his copy, flipping through the pages like he might find a loophole. When he didn't, he exchanged a glance with Mom. Slowly, grudgingly, they both signed. I gathered the documents, stacking them neatly back in the folder. "One last thing," I said, holding their eyes. "I've accepted a job offer in Seattle. I'm moving in 2 weeks." The air left the room like someone had punctured it with a needle. Mom's mouth opened, then closed. Dad looked like he wanted to object, but didn't. Ethan sank back into the couch. Chloe wiped her eyes. I squared my shoulders, my voice steady for the final time. "This isn't about money anymore. It's about respect. For me. For my boundaries. For the future." And as I watched their stunned faces, for the first time in years, I felt free. The weight of years spent as her family's safety net had finally lifted, leaving space for something long overdue: peace on her own terms. Through every manipulation and carefully masked betrayal, Madeline chose not just to reclaim her financial freedom, but her voice. Because in the end, justice doesn't always come with fireworks or courtroom verdicts. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet signing of a boundary agreement, and the sound of stunned silence when the one they underestimated stands her ground. Like the final note in a long muted song, truth had its moment, and this time it echoed loud enough for everyone to hear.